Thank you very much, Wang, for guiding us through the quiz again and the Q&A session. Before we go through the multi-site certification, I'd like to give a summary of the conclusion of the PFC chain of custody process. So at the very beginning, we looked at the management system. And now we've also looked at the definition of a product group, and we've covered the identification of inputs and basically the material, the delivery documentation, why it's important to identify your suppliers, and the classification of material according to different material categories and the PFC claims. We have also looked at the due diligence system and how to apply it and when it is applicable. Material that is excluded from due diligence system is recycled material that meets the PFC definition of recycled material, and also material from species which are listed in Appendix 1 to 3 because they require special legislation. I also highlighted the special treatment of material under a PFC recognized claim. We also just recently looked at the chain of custody method. I described the physical separation method, the percentage method, and the rolling percentage as well, how you can use it, and the credit method. How to declare your outputs. Now you can specify the documents where to make the claims, including the identification information, potential chain of custody claims on the declaration of outputs are X% PFC certified, PFC controlled sources, and 100% PFC origin. And if allowed, the trademarks are used. So with that short summary, I hope it's more or less clear to everyone how the chain of custody process is allowed, not allowed. And now we talk about multi-site certification. So what is multi-site certification? This is basically activities that are carried out on more than one site, where you have a central office for planning, control and management, and different sites where different activities are carried out. According to the standard, a central office is where activities are planned or controlled and managed, and there is a network of sites at which activities are carried out. A multi-site organization can cover: one, an organization which franchises companies where the sites are linked through common ownership, common management, or other organizational links, not membership in association. Here you have an example of common ownership where you have the central office. This is China in orange, red, sorry, and the production sites are marked in blue. Common ownership, you can have the central office based in Germany and the production sites in different parts of the world, in China, the US, Chile, Poland, or Sweden. Organizational link, so you have the central office and a common management within the same country, but then also at the central office you have the production site, and you also have different production sites within the same territory. Something else to also note is that a multi-site organization can also cover a producer group. A producer group is basically a group of independent legal enterprises established for the purpose of chain of custody certification, so group certification. For the producer group or group certification, you can have certification which is accessible to small independent companies. There's some synonyms of common terms that I use, for example, central office, which means group entity or the group manager, and the sites can also mean the group members. The group manager can also be a trade association, an experienced legal entity, or one of the group members. The requirements for the group members of a producer group are that they need to be located in the same single country. They also need to have a maximum of 50 employees, so full-time employees, and a maximum of 10 million euros as the overall turnover. So what does this mean exactly? The PFC chain of custody working group interpreted the 10 million euros turnover as follows. In case a participant in a producer group exceeds the limit of 50 employees and 9 million or 10 million euros turnover after joining the producer group, then the participant has to leave the producer group after the second surveillance audit in a row where one of the limits is exceeded. So this is an example of a producer group in Australia. You have the group manager, the central office or association, and the group members are in different parts of Australia. Each group member has not less than 10 million euros and not less than 50 employees. So the general requirements is that the chain of custody process needs to be administered centrally. All sites are also subject to an internal audit program, which needs to be done prior to the visit of the certification body or the auditor from the certification body. All of the members of the group, they need to comply with the chain of custody requirements, and the organization needs to be able to demonstrate its ability to collect and analyze data from all sites and central office ability to initiate changes. So these requirements apply to the producer group as well as a multi-site organization. The standard also talks about the function of the central office or the certificate holder. Some of the responsibilities are to represent the multi-site organization in the certification process, have a contractual link with all sites or group members, provide information and guidance to sites or group members, need to also establish written procedures and keep records. You also need to review central office and sites for conformity, including taking record of all the results of the audits. Also establishing corrective and preventive measures and evaluate the effectiveness. So during the internal audit or the internal audit program, which this is before the auditor from the certification body comes to evaluate your company with the sites, the audit of all the sites and the central office need to be done on-site or remotely. And if remotely, you need to verify that it is feasible. If in case of a new site, according to the previous requirement, it can either be done on-site or remotely as well. For the sites or the group members, what are their roles? They need to implement the PFC chain of custody, to follow up any information and corrective actions which are requested by the central office or the certification body. Give full cooperation for audits by central office and the certification body. If individual sites are found to be non-compliant, then the complete certificate can be withdrawn or suspended. So in summary, every site shares responsibility. So with that short presentation on multi-site certification, if you have any questions, feel free to give your questions in the Q&A section. Now I hand over to Huang to continue with the program. Thank you for your time.